I always mocked the tourists who claim to feel vibrations at Machu Picchu. For me, as a night guide authorized for maintenance and heritage surveillance, the citadel was just stone, cold, and an absolute silence that had become routine. However, everything changed on the night of the winter solstice. That day, the mist didn't rise from the valley as it usually does. It descended from the peaks of Salcante like a heavy, oily and frigid shroud that seemed to devour the light of my halogen flashlight. I was walking through the Intihuatana sector, the sacred stone that hitches the sun, when the air became so thick I struggled to breathe. My flashlight began to flicker, but it wasn't a battery failure. The beam of light followed a rhythm, a heartbeat emanating from the ground itself. I stopped dead in my tracks. That's when I heard the first sound, a metallic, screeching friction, as if someone were dragging a sheet of pure gold across rough granite. Turning my light toward the sacred stone, my heart skipped a beat. I didn't see the usual geometric profile. I saw a human silhouette, but distorted by an impossible anatomy. It stood at least 8 feet tall. Its limbs were extremely thin, ending in fingers far too long that curved inward like condor talons. It had no face. In its place, it wore a mask of laminated gold that seemed to have been melted directly onto the skull, as grayish, taut skin peeked out from the edges. The sentinel didn't walk. It glided with an unnatural rigidity, as if its joints were made of old wood. Every time its feet touched the ground, the air vibrated with a dull moan, an echo of thousands of voices begging for air that no longer belonged to them. I tried to back away, but my feet weighed tons. It was as if the mountain's gravity had multiplied just for me. The creature turned its golden mask toward my position. There were no eyes, only 2 deep black sockets dripping a dark, viscous liquid that evaporated before hitting the ground. "You have counted the steps of this house, but you have not paid the tithe of your shadow," whispered a voice that didn't come from the air, but from my own bones, a vibration that made my teeth chatter until they nearly broke. I felt a sharp pain in my chest, a sudden void. I watched in horror as my own shadow, projected onto the stone wall by the fallen flashlight, began to peel away from the ground. My shadow stretched toward him, writhing as if trying to escape my body. The sentinel didn't want my flesh. It wanted my trace, my essence, the record of my existence on this plane. I ran. I forgot protocol. I forgot my gear. I ran through the agricultural terraces, leaping from level to level in the darkness, while I heard the rhythmic click, click, click of its metal claws on the stones behind me. The sound was always at the same distance, no matter how hard I exerted myself. I felt the world around me becoming two-dimensional, as if reality were tearing apart. I reached the main exit just as the first ray of dawn cut through the mist. Reaching the checkpoint, I collapsed in exhaustion. My colleagues looked at me with a mix of horror and confusion. When I tried to sign the exit log, my hand wouldn't respond. Looking at my palms, I screamed. My fingerprints had completely disappeared. My skin is now smooth as glass. I am a man without a trace, a ghost walking among the living. And I know that in every shadow of Machu Picchu, the sentinel still keeps the piece of soul he tore from me night. Climbing Huayna Picchu after closing hours was not a smart move, but the ambition of a professional photographer sometimes borders on psychosis. I wanted the definitive shot. The citadel under a blood moon, without a single tourist, capturing the soul of the empire. I hid in one of the crevices near the Temple of the Moon on the back slope of the mountain and waited for the guards to finish their final round. At 2 in the morning, the silence of the mountain was broken by a nauseating sucking sound, as if the hill were breathing through a trachea filled with blood. I crawled out of my hiding spot, expecting to see some nocturnal animal. But what I saw defied any logical explanation. In the central plaza far below, the stones were not dry. They glistened with a reddish sweat, a thick moisture seeping from the perfect joints of the granite. Looking toward the summit of Machu Picchu, right above my head, I saw a procession descending the stairs of death. They weren't ethereal ghosts or apparitions of light. They were solid, real bodies, wrapped in the finest Kumbi textiles but rotted by the centuries. Their faces were mummified, leathery skin clinging to the bone, and most terrifyingly, their eye sockets were sewn shut with oxidized copper wire. They carried on their shoulders a litter made of human femurs and ribs, bound by dried nerves. The smell hit me like a sledgehammer, an unbearable mixture of fermented chicha, dead flowers, and old meat that never finished decomposing. I tried to turn on my digital camera, but the device instantly heated up in my hand, searing my palm with an electric hiss. The battery swelled and the lens shattered into 1,000 pieces without anything touching it. The processioners stopped dead. All at once, with mechanical synchronicity, they turned their heads 180 degrees toward my position. They emitted no human cry. Instead, they opened their sewn mouths, and from them, black moths began to pour out, thousands of them, as large as human hands, forming a dense cloud that blotted out the moonlight. The fluttering sounded like 1,000 whispers conspiring against me. The Apu is hungry for new eyes to see the future, I heard in the center of my brain. I felt my lungs fill with that toxic dust from the moth's wings. I fell to my knees, suffocating, as the beings scrambled down the vertical slopes with a speed that defied physics, moving like giant spiders over the stones. I managed to roll down an embankment and hide in a small funerary chamber that smelled of damp earth. I spent the rest of the night listening to how their bone fingers scratched the exterior stone, searching for a fissure, a flaw in the construction to get inside. When the sun finally illuminated the valley, the beings were gone, but in the center of the chamber I found a stone statuette that wasn't there before. It has my exact features, my expression of terror, but it has no eyes. Since that day, my vision slowly fades every time the sun sets, and I begin to see things that do not belong to this century.